Hey everybody, welcome to Improv FAQ at Length. This is a series of longer conversations about improv topics that have lots of questions surrounding them. I'm James Quesada.
And I'm Bob Wick.
And we're joined by a very special guest, our good friend Heather Sejnow. Welcome, Heather.
You pronounced the last name right.
We learned it in the last episode. Did you watch the last episode to make sure you pronounced it correctly, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I don't want to have to ask again. So Heather, you're joining us to do a show and tell episode, and this is going to be about Die Centennial, which is one of my favorite shows because, and part of the reason that we're doing it today on a October Sunday is because it was a Halloween show. And so, you know, between it being a Halloween show, one of my favorite holidays, times of year, types of shows, and just how much fun it was to work with you on the show. You know, I'm really excited to talk about it. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I'll say before we jump into it that if anybody has additional questions as we go about the either the show or anything else in improv, or for Heather, we can get to those questions before we end it. I'm
and it doesn't have to be about the topic we're currently speaking about. Just, you know, this is a conversation at the bar, so just
like participation.
Come on. Yeah.
I'm an open book. I'll answer anything.
Cool. Okay, so the show description on Die Centennial is that it was a Halloween show about a couple that was celebrating their 100-year anniversary of dying. And so we played Henry and Agnes, right? Heather?
Aggie.
Aggie.
Agnes. Aggie.
Yeah. Wait. What was that? What did I say?
You said Henry and Agnes, which is correct. Yeah. But anytime you'd be like, I'm Henry Mortelli and I'm Agnes Mortelli, but you can call me Aggie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So it was Henry and Aggie Mortelli, and we, for our 100-year anniversary of death, were appearing before an audience to let them ask us questions about the things that we've seen floating around in purgatory, watching humanity over the past 100 years. That was the premise. And this would have been 2014 is what we believe the year was.
Pretty sure.
In October. And then we did it once again in February the next year. And then we did like a special mega version of it in October 2015 with the X Factory, where we had 5 couples for a total cast of 10 people doing it. Yeah. So
yeah. It happened.
It happened.
Hey, and that's all we have to explain. Have a good night, everybody. So, like, how did you come up with the concept? Because as far as I can remember, this is like one of the few, this is the first time we had this kind of forum where you guys would break the fourth wall and come out and talk to the audience. And I don't think there was a lot of that going on at Go. So first of all, what inspired the overall like concept? And then let's get to the specifics of, you know, how you get your gets and all that other all the cool mechanisms that made this show so unique.
I should preface it with before we actually, James messaged me about the show. We had booked a gig for a app for Halloween that never went anywhere. And I wanted to see if you remember, this is the reason why we actually started doing the show together, is because we had worked on a Halloween app where we were painted as ghosts and we were also spooky dolls. There's a YouTube clip of it somewhere I found, and it is, it was nowhere near what it was described as being, but we still got paid for it. And we almost didn't know if we were getting paid for it either. At the very end, the guy was like, so, you know, I decided to pay you. We're like, we thought we were going to anyway as actors. And I don't know if it was through Go or how we came upon the part.
I can't really remember
we were just looking for slender people who could dance. I remember dancing and kind of manipulate, be like physical. And James and I were like the two main people at Go who
you were the first two that came to my mind.
Yeah. So we did that, and I still have some video clips and pictures from that time. But yeah, they painted us all white and put us in like white spooky clothing. I had to come out of a TV with like blue screen. It was really cool setup, actually.
Yeah.
And like he was pulled on a cart to make it look like he was flying toward you. So was I. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, it was very cool. That was a totally fun gig, and they had us set up in like heavy makeup and some wigs and like painted costumes and stuff. And it was very fun. Yeah, that's so funny though. I totally forgot that the connection between that gig and Die Centennial, because I never forget about that gig. I love those are very cool photos that pop up in my time hop or whatever, from behind the scenes at that gig. I mean, also that must have been in like because they were releasing that for October, so I think they were working on it in like late August, early September. And then so what happened was that coming up on October on the Go comedy schedule, I was like, is there going to be a Halloween show this year? And PJ was like, we don't have anything planned. And I was like, let me do a Halloween show. Let me do something. And then because it was such a tight turnaround, I was like, easiest thing to do would be to keep it a small cast. And I was like, what about a duo show? And then I thought to Heather, I'm sure that it was the imagery of us working together on that app, but also because you were also like a theatrical Halloween loving person, Heather, there's lots of reasons to work with you on it.
Sorry.
Hi, Kitty, Black Cat.
That was perfect. It fits the theme.
She was just like, when she likes to jump up on me, she looks like she's ready to, but she kept doing the like, just like tap.
She does like bad edits. Like just
sweep.
Yeah.
Sometimes she doesn't know how to jump or do things properly.
Follow your feet, Cat. Jeez.
But yeah, I remember you calling me up and saying, "Hey, I got this idea for a Halloween show," and you were dating Julia at the time, right?
No, I was with Kathleen.
Oh, Kathleen. Because I thought you said like you had mentioned it to somebody else. Oh no, it was Pete. That's who it was.
I can see how you get those three mixed up.
No, I couldn't remember if it was if you had mentioned like you had mentioned somebody else had brought up like who should we invite to do this, and both of you, you and someone else had said, oh, well, why not Heather? You just did the Halloween thing together, and that's why you invited me. So it was flattery, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, if I hadn't done that show, I wouldn't be in this. But at the same time, yay! So I was really excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why. It's not like we hadn't worked together on lots of things before.
Right.
Like, I've always been one of my go-to people. So like,
but I had never done a show where it was like one-on-one, and I guess this sounds bad, but I don't really get invited to do much improv, like or join people's sets. So it was very nice to like be asked to do like a 2-person type show. That I'd never had that happen, so that was very nice.
Yeah, well, and then it was also unique as a 2-person show because we were planning to interact with the audience, and I honestly can't remember how the concept of the show. I think sometimes what happens is I'll just start cycling through like cool names, and then I'll be like, well, what would the show be that belongs to that? And I'm pretty sure that's how this happened. That happened for this one. It's like Die Centennial, like, and then I was like, well, okay, and that sounds like an anniversary of death, and then I don't think there's more details to the formation of the concept than that, other than just kind of like snowballing on that.
And we had practiced going over the format and trying to figure out what it was. I remember that we had like 2 weeks or something, because I feel like you messaged me literally right before the show was going to go up, and even the opening night, we really didn't know what was going on besides, okay, we have to look like we're dead, and we're going to do this, wing it.
And so here's one of the most memorable things for me in terms of like things, show process, and what I learned from like developing a show is that we did a photo shoot for the poster, and you were like, your Heather, your idea was that like, okay, let's just get a bunch of photos against a black wall. I'll take a bunch of shots of us doing like different spooky, scary facial expressions, and then I'll Photoshop a bunch of stuff into a concept. And what you ended up doing with the poster was to Photoshop us into like being a vampire, and then also having like kind of I don't know if kitsch is the right word, but like, you know, silly fun like hat, or like with a mullet and stuff. So it wasn't all like horror stuff, but it was all like costume and prop oriented things on the poster. And then I was like, oh man, this is such an awesome poster. And like, because it has the costume element on it, I was like, I feel like I want to do something with that to match the show. So like
I completely forgot we used costumes for that.
I know, and then it was like, okay, let's get a bunch of let's both bring costume pieces that we have, and we went to the training center, and we were like, all right, so we're gonna tell stories of we're gonna have a big intro to introduce ourselves and our anniversary of dying, and then we're gonna start inviting the audience to ask us questions about the last 100 years. And it could be anything from like a historical event to like what are some weird things you've seen people do at work, you know what I mean? Just super open-ended. And
I think that's how we practiced the format too, was while we were looking at items to use for the show, we were bullshitting during the entire time and making each other laugh and being like, look, I'm an old man. And it's like, remember that time I dated an old sailor and then he tried to beat you up? It's like, come here. Come here, kid. I don't know why I keep going for the pinky.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Get over here, kid. I'm gonna fuck you up.
Pinky Man's gonna fuck you up.
This pinky has been important.
Very threatening pinky. I mean,
this pinky's seen things.
Yeah. But we then we were like, okay, we'll just have a small table with some sunglasses and jewelry or whatever, and we had a coat tree with scarves and whatever, and we just set them up on some stations on the stage, so that we could throw a hat on and just be somebody to reenact some of the stories. And so another cool thing about the format was that we would pop in and out of like doing the scene and then talking to the audience, sort of like internally narrating as the characters that like you know, they were both at the bar, and the bartender was starting to get pretty irked by him, and you know, you can just kind of like then walk over and be the bartender.
Yeah.
And so I remember that just being a really interesting element, because it's like meta, you know, we've talked a lot about in here about how much I like meta, but it was meta in a way where that we were talking as characters to the audience, and then playing characters as characters, and then popping out of the scene to talk to the audience as the characters underneath those characters.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I used to do some weird bit when it came to like picking out people in the audience, like because we were wondering like, who would we go to ask questions. It was usually like couples or people that we didn't know. But more time than not, there was, you know, and you're packed with your friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would say like personal stuff about them or something. I'll be like, look over here, it's Robert. He's sitting all by himself. Let's talk to him, make him feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. I do remember week by week, again, because we didn't have a chance to like a long rehearsal process to like workshop stuff.
Yeah.
That we basically were just like, I don't know, whenever we need a new suggestion, we'll just walk into the audience and start talking to people. And we also like didn't just take like raise of hands. We would start a conversation with somebody, or maybe we did both. I can't remember. I
feel like it turned. We brought it back to like a story, or because it was kind of conversational, where we would bring. I feel like our real day-to-day life or something in there, or a memory, and be like, I remember, this one time I broke my hand and da 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 da. It's like you've all broken your hand before. Who's broken their hand? Who still has a broken hand? He looks like he's never used it. And then carry on and talk to that person, and we always has weird connections to the audience. That's all I can remember from that.
Yeah, I have to imagine that what ended up happening is that we were like, probably for our first show, we were like, people just throw us a question, and because Heather and I are not history buffs, we're like,
I am though. I am a history buff, so sometimes I would call people out on stuff.
I wouldn't know where to really jump in a history context, so I would just be like, I don't like the ones where
so loud.
That's a question.
Cat's got opinions, baby.
She's so loud. She thinks she's a person.
But I think what ended up happening is that we went from like taking straight questions to them being like, let's just riff with the audience until we kind of find a story that we can take on stage.
Yeah. I will say it I don't know, it was a weird time, a weird year too, just in terms of like performance, because people really liked the show, but I'll be honest, I never felt good about the shows afterward. I always felt like we did really great in like prepping or backstage, like making jokes and stuff up, and the second getting on stage, I was like, I lost it. Or there would be certain like aspects where it really hit, but I think because we were still learning the format and I wasn't like always so sure about performance during that time, that I personally didn't feel that great. But I know James always killed it.
Well, so. As a guy who watched it, I never saw any of that. And I've played with you enough times where I thought I could read you. Well, I never saw. I thought you guys looked very comfortable when you guys were performing this. I thought this was like, especially this format with your styles, just fit perfectly. So maybe I just assumed like, oh, she must be comfortable because she looks comfortable. Maybe some of the makeup is hiding it. I don't know. But yeah, usually you can tell, somebody, you can usually tell, but that's awesome. I mean, that you were able to, even, if you had some butterflies in the stomach, still perform where people who know you couldn't see that. And we've talked about that a lot, like on here, like students, like, what do you do when you're nervous? Like, so since your experience or had that experience, like, do you ever use that as a reference? Like when people ask you, like, what do you do when you're nervous on stage, or you don't know where to go, or you're just not feeling 100 that day?
I think it's a little difficult for me because I genuinely don't really get nervous on stage. It's mainly right before. The problems that I have on stage are usually second guessing myself or thinking, this is shit. Like, this is bad. I don't want to be here. And I'm like, fuck, what am I doing? Like, it's more annoyance or upset with myself. I don't like, or like if I say something, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that. Like, I've got nothing in my, I'm like, I'm not having fun with this, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so many things that just kind of like weasel its way down. And it isn't until like after the fact or a month down the road that you just remember, it's a show. No one's gonna remember this. Like, it's fine, whatever. I'll hold on to it for a long time, but the audience doesn't fucking care. So majority of the shows that I've done that are bad for me, I'm the only one that remembers them, which is fine. I mean, if anything, it kind of highlights for future shows. Like, I know my worst show I always have that in my back pocket and remembering it can't be worse than this. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't god awful.
Well, that's part of the excitement of doing this, right? If it was easy, people like us would find it boring and everybody else would be doing it. So we have to bomb for it to have enjoyment. You have to drop on it, you know, for the ride to be fun, right?
I will say, though, that as time goes on and just when it becomes more second skin, like it just becomes part of your flow and it does get easier. Sometimes it does get boring. I'm not the like poster child for improv whatsoever because I have qualms and like frustrations with it and just I'm seeing a lot of bad to the point where it's like
I would absolutely argue with you. You are the poster child just from that sentence alone.
I've seen a lot of bad. I've been a lot of the
improviser
bad.
who is completely secure and doesn't second guess himself or doesn't judge himself either on or off stage. But I would love to meet that performer because that doesn't exist. Yeah.
But nowadays I kind of am in that. Like when I go on stage, I know if it's gonna be shit, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna have fun with it. Yeah. Like specifically, it was PJ's technically last show where everyone went on stage. There were parts of that show that were bad, but I remember like just being on the sidelines. Specifically, it was when Lauren was talking with someone else on stage, and they were talking about like their inner thoughts. And two people came on stage to be the one person's thoughts and then like came back off stage. And I turned to Alan and I nudged him like, what do you know about like Fast and the Furious? He's like, what? I'm like, what do you know about Fast and the Furious? Or like Limp Bizkit? Just do you know anything about that? And he's like, I don't know. I guess I could pull some stuff up. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, and now cut to inside Lauren's head. It was just like Fast and the Furious, Fast and the Furious, Fast and the Furious. Oh, John Wick. Just like being a total dick to him. And it's one of those moments where it's not good. I know it's not good. It's funny to me, which is why I'm doing it. And I know Lauren's going to be upset and also think it's funny because we're ripping on him. And then we cut back. And Alan's like, I just said like a Limp Bizkit line. I don't really know much of what I was doing. I'm like, it's fine. It was funny. It's good.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it got a lot of laughs. So, and afterward, Lauren's like, fuck you. But I think those are the moments where when you get to that point, you can kind of say, I don't really get nervous on stage. If it's bad, it's bad. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get to that point.
Oh, yeah.
Miles Stroth, who's, you know, like old school Chicago dude, runs the Pack Theater out in LA, is he says that like there was a point when he stopped, he got better in a way that he noticed totally opened up in a new way after years and years and years, and that he was like, it was when I stopped giving a fuck. I decided I had these anxieties and ups and downs, and then eventually I just was like, I don't give a fuck. And after that, he's felt much better, or felt a total difference in his performance.
And honestly, that is a mantra that has helped so much. Is when I feel my best is when I don't fucking care what is going on around me and just doing it basically for my own enjoyment. And also, you know, you want to make other people look good or have fun. And it's like when you're with your best friends, the funniest stuff that happens is usually when you guys don't care and you call each other the worst names, make fun of each other, just ripping on each other. That's, you know, it's a good friendship, is if you can literally just desecrate over their entire existence and that person is still laughing. And that's, if you can like bottle that up and put that on stage, that's good improv.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And so to echo some of the things you were saying about the show, Heather, is that like I also felt I was surprised how well it went the first night. Like,
Yeah.
people
I
really
was
like
surprised too.
Yeah.
Of course,
I think we both
you know,
were.
What was so
part of that-
different from anything we've seen? So, I mean, at that theater, yeah. So it was really cool. And you guys had a lot of fun. And as soon as you guys walked off stage and started interviewing people, like,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to be good.
When the lights came up and we walked into the audience and seeing people's reactions, that's when I knew at least it may not be the best show, but it's something that is completely different and entertaining to the audience for that aspect alone.
Yeah, and of course, part of it is that, you know, people love Halloween. Heather did the makeup for it, and
Oh, yeah.
we were dressed in like you know, we were like, we died 100 years ago, so let's do our, like, as close as we can get to like early 1900s sort of like, you know, vest and suit or whatever, and dress. And so it had a lot of dressing to it, and I think that goes a long way for people's appreciation of what you're putting on stage, which, you know, sometimes is a, I guess, pro or con of improv, is that we don't often dress it up, and sometimes that makes it really cool and accessible and like underground badass of like, we're just casually doing awesome shows or whatever.
Yeah.
Other times it's like an audience kind of gets lost of like, what are we watching? These people literally, I can't tell the difference between them and an audience member. You know what I mean? And I think with that show, we used dressing things up in a way for Halloween and for the theme of the show that worked really well. But at the same time, I remember, you know, when we were running the intro as these characters at the training center in rehearsal, Heather, and I just remember being like, we found it, we clicked with it eventually, but there was like a half hour where we were like, what are we talking about? What is this?
Yeah, we didn't know what it was going to turn into, and I think even Pete was like, I don't know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. And so, and I remember,
I was gonna say, I remember, I don't know why this popped up like just now, but I remember that first night, one of the ways that we got out of a scene was we just stood and looked at each other like, are you guys, is it done? Like, we kind of have the face of, I think this scene is done. And then you just went, anyhow. It's just like it's just one of those moments of like, I guess this is done. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing. It was just like,
yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
That's
yeah,
we also had our hands painted. Can I say that?
Yeah,
we went full detail on that.
Yeah, which is part of the beauty though of being able to just drop the scene and be like, because it's kind of like the old when old people are just like, you can tell that they've stopped caring about, like, they'll tell a story and they're like, you know, yeah, like well, this is something that's terrible, honestly, but anyway, like,
we got to that
who wants
point
a sandwich? Who hungry? Yeah.
I
got some good lunch meat over here.
Toward the end of the run, we got to that point where we're just like, what was I talking about? I don't know. Let's do a scene.
Yeah.
We didn't care.
Yeah.
Because there were no rules. We never set really anything up besides we had the opening, and some of our stories would, I think you would be like, who was that guy? Remember this person? Oh yeah, and didn't they do this? Yeah. In fact, I think it was similar to this, and then we go into the scene and actually do it. But there were multiple times where we didn't know how to get out of the scene besides saying, oh yeah, that's what happened.
We didn't have an ending for the show either. We're like,
oh wow.
Oh yeah, there was no ending, or really, we didn't know how to end things. It just was what it was.
Yeah. But so I want to point to a particular moment, just because I remember it so clearly. Heather is backstage behind the curtain before we got on stage for the opening night. And I remember you just kind of pacing around, and we were, like you said, we were joking around and having fun beforehand and excited, but then you're pacing around and you were like, I'm nervous. And I was like, me too. And it just was it was a really nice moment of like kind of I don't know. I think you and I do a good job of playing it cool when we are feeling nervous or kind of masking those kinds of things. So it was it was a really nice moment of like you saying what I was also feeling. And then once we got on, it made it easier for me to then get on stage and be like, we are in this together. And then once we were in the intro of the show, which is maybe like a minute and a half of just like, and we had beats of things that we were hopefully going to get laughs.
Yeah.
And they did. And then some things that we weren't expecting to get laughs got laughs, which is always great. Yeah. And then from that point on opening night, I was like, okay, we can do this. This is going to work. And it was a big relief. As much as, you know, there were ups and downs, it was like, mostly this is going to work.
Yeah. Even when things weren't the greatest or most seamless, it still was fun. And and the audience laughed and had a good time. And honestly, that's really what you're looking for in excuse me, I'm losing my voice all of a sudden. No, like you're just looking for that kind of reaction from a show. So as long as you get a decent amount of laughs and people look like they're having a good time, it's a good show. And you can't feel bad about it. And also, I mean, as I slowly put the thumb back on the award, we fucking swept that year in terms
award. we swept that category. We had
one
category we qualified for. We swept it.
We got it good.
No. This is why I like to think that we swept, because you won Best Actor that year.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
you won Best Actor. I won Best Female or Improviser. And then we won for Best Improvised Show, which were the 3 categories we could be in for that particular show. So we did technically sweep.
Yeah. And so this is something that I go back and forth on, because I'm somebody who, like, I love to put a lot of work and preparation into a show. And sometimes I'm like, I push back against the idea that, like, the best things are the ones that you just fly by the seat of your pants and figure it out as you go. That's such an improv thing, obviously, as a philosophy. But I think that, you know, I think that improvisers in general, I like to see people like push and challenge themselves to not do that, even though you're so good at it. Like for us to not do those fly by the seat of your pants, even though we know we can. It's such a great fallback if we need to.
Yeah.
We can. But the fact of the matter is, this show is a good example of having like probably the least amount of time I've ever had to put together a show, throwing things together really quickly to produce it. We didn't like hold back on like those costume and makeup elements, and then it worked so well and was so well received for such a little time, having to really work on it, which for what it's worth, it that is true, that it does often lead to success.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this. You guys have done other shows and stuff like that. One, the kinds of shows that do have the long rehearsal process and do have like maybe the more production value, if you will. I feel sometimes you lose momentum when you're doing the same, you have to rehearse the scene every day. Like your heart's not as in it as being like, oh, here's the script. It goes up tomorrow. You better do it right. Like there's an excitement to that. Like, and do you think that may have helped this whole process by only having such a limited amount of time to get prepped?
Yeah. Well, it was also improvised, so we didn't have to rely on any script. I mean, we did have tidbits that we would regularly redo for each show. That was mainly in the intro or figuring out how to talk to the audience members. Like we had 1 or 2 bits that we try and go back and forth with. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like frantic energy and nervousness kind of also equals excitement. So I think you should have somewhere in a show that kind of feeling, like that sense of danger, because it brings out, you know, the most energy. I know when I was at Second City for conservatory, there was a week where I had thrown my back out and I had to do a front flip over somebody and be lifted in the air, do a bunch of physical stuff, and literally could barely move an hour before the show. But because of the adrenaline of like, I gotta fucking do this. If I don't do this on stage, like I'm gonna ruin the scene. Like I have to do it. And even cast members were saying, you know, we can switch it up. We can change it. I'm like, no, we can't. I wrote this fucking sketch. It's got to go this way. And I know that if I don't do it this specific way, the audience is going to be let down. And anybody who saw it the week before is going to be like, well, why did they change that? So I don't know what it is, but it's just that like that energy, that determination of.
You think there's an audience member who went to the first show, then would come back to the second show and be disappointed, like, man, I threw down $15 to see that front flip, and she didn't do it. Who's your manager?
But that's how my brain functions. Is
I know. We're all built the same way. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. But but why do we do that to ourselves? Why would we make up this imaginary person who never exists? And if they do, they can go fuck themselves.
Sometimes it helps though, because in that situation it helped because I was so determined to do good in that particular sketch. And if you know, like it, you can't fail, like no matter what. Yeah. And being on stage, I did not feel anything in my back. Like I just focused on the scene and all the high energy, the audience laughing, like all of that combined gave me like super strength to get through it. And then the second I walked off stage, I was just like, I like fell on the couch and crying in pain. But during the scene, it goes away. And that's kind of the same energy that we had for the show. Like, even if you're nervous, you get pushed on that stage, you're there. If you leave, that's when you fail. So being on stage, that's a giant step toward like determination and reaching your goals. And even if you get one audience member to laugh, it's a win. So I kind of see it that way. Like
no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm trying to understand the psychology because I'm very much from the same school. Like, but then I ask myself after I'm done doing that, when I'm on the couch crying, like, who is this person that I'm trying to impress? Like, what does the audience look? Is it me? That's fair as well, but
I go for the audience is who I'm trying to impress, because anytime I've been part of a show, I'm not gonna lie, I'm difficult to work with on shows. So just because I want it to be so good, and if I feel like I'm failing, I come across as kind of a bitch because I'm so just like horse-eyed. What is it called? Blinders. I've got the blinders on.
Horse-eyed? I like horse-eyed. So horse-eyed. It's different than fish-eyed.
I got the blinders on the side, and it's just like straightforward, and I'm only focusing on my work, and if it doesn't work for myself, then I've let down the entire cast, and I don't even care about the other cast members. I just care about literally the show as a full, and what the audience's reaction to it. And that's where it's like, well, she's being a fucking cunt over here, like trying to memorize her lines. It's like, she's doing fine. We need to focus on other things. It's like, yeah, I understand that. But at the same time, I'm just so like, Heather, you're fucking up again. You can't fuck up. Like, you're going to do good. And if I don't do good for myself and for the audience, then that's when I let down the cast. And it happens quite a lot.
Again, so I've done many shows with you. I've never had that feeling about you. Actually, I felt the opposite because I've worked with people who don't want to do the extra work, who doesn't want to run a scene with me, and then I get frustrated. So maybe again we're aligned, so I don't see. Maybe my horse eyes doesn't see you being that way, but I don't see that. I let yourself off the hook. You know,
I definitely felt that way during Die Centennial, just because James is a very strong performer. You have been from the get-go, and Yes.
Yeah, that guy.
You listen to the compliments.
Mr. Best Actor 2014.
Fucking every
Where's your thumb at?
Every year. How many awards do you have? You took, oh, by the way, you took home the Die Centennial one, which I kind of felt bad about because it was like, he's won like 7. And I just go 1. So if you have that one, I would not mind.
Wait, the Die Centennial one? I thought that's what you have.
I have the best female improviser.
That's gotcha.
And then you took 2 home. And I think actually you might have gotten a 3rd, which is like you won the eye of Go Comedy, one of the eyes.
Yeah.
The horse eye or like a
yeah, you won one of the horse eyes of Go Comedy.
Yeah. It was a bit much for me to take in on how many categories but yes, okay. So I will take the compliment and thank you.
No, you're an intimidating performer because you have so much control over yourself and also are able to not only boost the scene in general, but just like kind of eagle eye everyone around you and help them out. And you really did help me out a ton during Die Centennial. Like I feel as years have gone on, I've become a lot stronger performer. But during that time it's like wishy-washy. It was either really good or just kind of teetering on like, it was a pile of garbage. So to do a show with you, and especially like 2-man, one that we weren't really prepared for, when I said I was nervous that first night is probably because I thought you had control over it and I didn't. And that's why I felt nervous. It's because I didn't want to let you down.
Yeah.
And I did feel that way the entire time. I really didn't. I think that was one of the few shows where it wasn't just the audience I was trying to impress, but I literally didn't want to like be seen as terrible compared to you.
Well, yeah. And again, it's like these things in our heads that kind of like put pressure on us. And I think the goal is to like find ways that like what is the most healthy, productive way to have that, because like sometimes if there's not enough pressure, then that's when I get boring and get bored and disengage. And so I wanted to perform well with you because you're one of my favorite performers, and that's a good pressure for me to be like okay, let me like, it's a good pairing, like and obviously again I know we're fucking circle jerking our awards, but like we were both doing really well.
Wait, what?
We were both doing really well in our performance in the community and stuff, and so it was a good pairing for you and I to be in that show, and I felt like I wanted to keep pace with you and show how that was a good match, that we were a good pairing. And that's a good pressure. And it's like, how can we kind of take that idea of like, it's hard to like take that idea of like what the audience expects, and can I use that as a positive motivator instead of like a scary thing where I feel like I by the end of it that I'm like, I can't believe I made it out alive, and it just like killed the fun of the show. And instead be like, how can I be like yes, I want to like be competitive and deliver on what people's expectations are in a positive way, so that when it happens, you're like yeah, all right, this is going well, and you can actually enjoy it. Like that to me is the big challenge of how to harness those thoughts and feelings, and it's a difficult thing to do on a consistent basis.
I will say that show definitely did help boost my own personal performance and get better as an improviser in general, because it honestly, if it weren't for that show, I never would have won that award. So that, like, to be asked to join in something that was so fun, and I love spooky, ooky, kooky type stuff. I'm queen of Halloween type shit. So that was super fun to just be asked to do that. I mean, like, taking the photos of us and just having a good old time being stupid during Halloween is my kind of fun
was a pretty
hobby.
Bomb ass poster. That and the one you did for Secret Secrets are two of my favorite posters.
I do love the Die Centennial one, and I feel like we are kind of being rude and not acknowledging the third person, who was Jess Loria Kay, who came in and covered for me for a couple of the shows. And then we also did one where it was the three of us. We did it for Snow Day.
Yeah.
That honestly was one of my favorite in the middle of the night improvised shows, because Lori and I were just doing push-ups, acting really manly, and talking about Real Housewives. It was great. But yeah, she came in and
yes, Gloria Kay did a super physical workout routine on stage during a scene. I'm surprised. I'm confused.
She had just gotten.
Gloria I know.
Well, she had just gotten into 30 Day Shred. This was around the time when she was getting really into physical activities. She was getting like fucking fit.
Yeah, she has some heart.
Yeah.
And now she's doing the baby pull-ups. Yeah.
Yes. And she was such a sport too, to come in last minute and took pictures of her and edited her into the poster as well. So we had transition, and that honestly is my favorite poster that I think.
Yeah, it's an awesome one. And so that was our February run. We did 4 or 5 shows in February, and Jess is definitely a history buff, and so was a great fit for that show, and really fun to play with too. And yeah, you're right. We should have given her mention earlier that like she was half of or a third of the show in our February run. And then also all the people that did it in the Die Centennial X on
Korean Tom. Oh my God, I'm trying to
Mike, Nevere,
Pete,
and Susie. Yeah,
and Susie. That's right. Couple. Holy crap! I'm trying to remember everybody who was a part of it. There was a
powerhouse. That's dope.
Yeah. We had a good amount of people.
Yeah, I remember. I forgot. Was I in a show before? Did you guys do a show after Date Night or something? Because I remember being backstage and you guys are all getting ready, and you trying to get like 20 people to have the correct makeup on was
that was it. Task. That was it, because I was doing everybody's makeup beforehand and making sure. And it was such a. I remember the makeup. It was based off of Corpse Bride, because I wanted us to be blue and have black, like for the lining of just like gauntness of face, and then everybody had to get their hands done, and it literally turned into, we had like 5 minutes to go, and I'm like, fuck it, just smear it on. Does it look okay? And I'm like, I don't care. Just go
But what if somebody would have saw last week's show and then came back and saw that one person wasn't wearing makeup on their hands?
I don't care about that anymore.
I'm just saying.
If it's not me, I don't care. But if my makeup was messed up, I would have had a serious problem. Like, there are tiny little things where I'm like, they can see like my neckline, and I'm like, fucker, I forgot to do the black line like right around here. Just tiny little things are what really distract me. Or even when it comes to sketch, we were talking about earlier, I don't get nervous for sketch shows. It's just if I don't deliver the line exactly how I should, or if somebody changes their tone and delivery to like a line before mine, and I don't say it right back to them, or if the line that usually gets a laugh doesn't get a laugh, that's when it's literally just my brain explodes of, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, I'm full. They can see my destruction, and I'm like dying on the inside. And then the scene is over, and everyone in the cast is like, that was really fun. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was terrible. And that's when I become a bitch. And I'm not saying they were terrible. I'm saying I was terrible. So anytime I say like a scene was bad, it's not the scene. It's me that did bad.
Well, we have just enough time to talk about if we had to do over again, what would we do differently? What would we keep the same about Die Centennial? And to me, I think we kind of touched on it, but I would have loved to figure out a better mechanism. Like, there's still something missing about the way that we interact with the audience and or end the show, and I would want to like explore more of like, how can we frame each scene like going from the scene into the audience interactions. And if that is just like leaning into that, we can just be like, this scene's over. Or if it's like, I don't know, a different way of asking sort of a list of types of questions or what, I would want to figure that out. But I would really want to keep, I really loved our intro. I would want to like find that exact intro and go back to that because I thought that was a really great introduction of character and setup for the show. I forgot one of the things we did is we would have this really creepy music at the beginning, and we came out as zombies, and we'd be like, we would go just a couple steps into the audience off the front of the stage,
like really creepy, and just stare.
and then lights would come up, and we would be like, no, we're not zombies. That's ridiculous. We're ghosts. And I think that's really strong stuff.
I did like that bit. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about that. Yeah, that was super fun. And the more shows we did, the longer we would hold it. And we got really close to people sometimes, like in the front tables, like we would lean over and this one lady I scared the crap out of, I know for a fact. I honestly, I think if we were to do this show again and did it the same format, it would be better only because we're more loose, and I feel like we've grown a lot in the past 6 years, and I've had more time to do kind of like that one-on-one with audience participation and just like talking with them. I feel more comfortable, like, I could do a conversation with someone and pick up tidbits, and we'd be able to transition a lot easier. And not, it's just, you got to get more shows under your belt, got to be more comfortable with those certain situations. And I feel like over time we both have. So if we were to do the same show, it probably would be super fun. And also we've gotten to a point where we can bullshit with each other and make fun of each other. And it's like, we'd pimp each other out for stuff, and that would be super fun.
Cool. Yeah. Really quick. I just want to read a friend of the show, weekly watcher, Sue, just wanted to say she had the pleasure of seeing the show. It was memorizing, very fresh and surprising. So that's from Sue.
Sue is lovely.
Thanks,
She's
Sue.
Very sweet.
And yeah, I totally agree. Like, again, the trade-off of doing a short preparation is like the thing I would love to change about that show is I would like to be more comfortable while doing it.
I get it. I feel like we'd be more comfortable doing it. Like if someone were like, "Hey, you can put the show up tomorrow." Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so we got to wrap up our time, but before we let you go, Heather, what's going on in your world that you'd like to plug? Things you want to let people know about?
Oh yeah, so I'm transitioning into doing voiceover full time. So if anyone wants to hire me, I do coaching sessions, teaching. So if there's any schools who are looking for voiceover teaching, I'm all for it. And I hurt my arm this past week, but it's feeling better, so I can get back into my 31 days of spoopy impressions on my Instagram. Cool. So yeah, I've got 3 up, and I'm really far behind. But it'll branch into November. I already let people know. I mean,
where can they see that?
Website soon, right?
Yeah. So I'm updating my website so people can contact me for voiceover as well through there, and that would be at heathersejnow.com. And then for the impressions, you can find me on YouTube at Heather Does Voices, and the same for on Instagram is at Heather Does Voices. And I've got a bunch of impressions and things on there. Cool. And Kumquat Corner in January will be coming back, but we're taking a small hiatus. But that is a political live stream show in which I help co-produce and video edit, and also do characters on debates and stuff. And Melania Trump.
Cool. Yeah.
Julia's done it, had a blast.
Yes, she was great. She played a great Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, and so we'll link to all those things as soon as I get a chance to put them in the description. Thanks so much for joining, Heather. It's been a blast to have you again on the show. And
so good to see you.
I know. Miss you. I miss you guys.
Miss you. I haven't seen you since we moved.
I know.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. You can catch us every Sunday at 1 p.m. doing these live streams, and otherwise on YouTube, Facebook, and podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Improv FAQ at length. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.